Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donohue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donohue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my amazing friend.
Well, hello, my amazing friend. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. Ooh, doggy, we've got one today that been on our list for a while, and, you know, it's the middle of the summer. It's too freaking hot where I am in New York, and it's making me very salty and cranky.
Yeah.
So we need to warn ahead of time. We'll be using the C word in this episode, and we don't mean creep.
We don't mean creep, y'all. Yeah, we're feeling
warning.
extra salty. So if you're like, I don't really like foul language, this episode will not be for you.
Yeah, true that. You could find us wherever you get your podcasts, obviously. But if you want to send us suggestions for creeps and also for non-creeps, and this is for first time listening, we always end the show with somebody who is not a creep. You can first try our Facebook group. It's a private group. You have to ask to join, and you just have to promise to not be a creep or an asshole, and we will let you come on in. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at What a Creep Podcast. Sorry, Twitter, we're at Creep Pod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for over 10 years and never used it.
Great.
But Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky, we're at What a Creep Podcast. Also, we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you would like some stickers, send us your address using the email, and we will drop them in the mail for you. We've had a few people ask this week, which is pretty exciting.
Aw, we love it when that happens.
We do indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Sonia, indeed. Sonia, do you want to tell them about the website?
Yeah, go to whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you want to know about the podcast, but we're afraid to ask. You shouldn't be afraid to ask. But if you are, there's stuff. Go there. You can click into each of our episodes, and you can see our show notes because we source everything we do. You also don't have to go to the website for that, by the way. You can just see it on your app, too. Mm-hmm. We source everything we do. We want to give credit to the people who did all the work. So if you're looking for a deeper dive on any of our creeps, that's a fabulous place to start. We also have a link to our fabulous. We also have a link to our merch shop where you can get t-shirts and tote bags, and you can get face masks because COVID rates are going up, y'all. So be safe out there. Wear your face mask when you're in crowded situations. And there's a link to our Patreon. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. If you want to help us financially support the show, that's a great place to start. We'd be really grateful. We have our first 8 seasons on there, which is rad. Plus, we put out 2 bonus episodes a month, and it's just Sonia and I shooting the shit, talking about creeps in the news and non-creeps in the news. And we do a video version, so you can see what we look like. Ain't that exciting?
That is exciting. We got a lot of love for that.
Yeah, people were psyched about that. And I want to thank Belle from Australia and Paul from the UK. Both of them just joined our Patreon. Thank y'all so much. Another way you can support us is leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, whatever you freaking use, whatever you people use. If you could do that, that would be totally amazing. Or you know what? Ask for a sticker, stick it on your laptop. Go to the coffee shop, look so super cool, or just tell a friend about the show. That would be amazing.
Yes, it helps us find our people.
It does indeed.
Indeed.
All right, Sonia.
Yeah.
Who are we talking about today? Jesus Christ, not a cracker.
Oh. We're going to be talking about Phyllis Schlafly. So I'm going to do the sources first, and let me pull them up here. Here we go. Sources for this episode: CNN, Harper's Bazaar, History, Mike, National Women's History Museum, the New York Times, PBS, Politico, Smithsonian Magazine, Vox, and Wikipedia. We have some trigger warnings here, y'all. Sexism, homophobia, and the C word. And like I said, I don't mean creep.
We got compliments from a UK fan, Paul, for our ability to say cunt correctly.
Cunt. I told Margot we should change this episode title to "What a Cunt." She is such a cunt.
She's the worst, y'all.
She is. So recently this was in the last couple of years, they overturned Roe v. Wade here in America because we're the worst. And now Vice President Kamala Harris is running for president against a convicted felon. And I've
rapist.
been thinking, and a rapist.
Adjudicated rapist, excuse me.
Yes. I've been thinking a lot about women who hate women. And like you can go on social media and there's people like Pearl and Laura Loomer, and they're just like these pick me girls who like shit all over women and hope that that means men will pick them. By the way, the conservative men they want will never pick them because
Nope.
no, these dudes tend to want like powerful, smart, independent women that they can then break and like put in a cage. That's what they want. So they'll never want them. But anyway, and then we have our like Lauren Boberts and our Majorie Taylor Greenes, and they like want to push women down and then climb on top of them, and then are surprised when these conservative men that they are so like pick me turn on them too.
Right.
It reminds me of there's a woman on TikTok who has a little song she likes to sing, and it's like, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. And it's like these women are so surprised when the leopards eat their face. It's like it is hilarious.
It's the equivalent of, if I may bring it down to a very tawdry, dumb level.
Yes.
It's Below Deck. And it's when the women fight over a Gary who's super gross. But like when the women fight over a guy like Joe on Below Deck.
Yes.
The latest season, Below Deck Men.
Yes.
And he's like, he's a perfectly nice guy, but he's
It's
a
not worth
fuckboy.
it.
There's so many fuckboys out there, and they always think they can change them. Or sometimes you'll find one that's like, I'm in on the game too. It's fine. But a lot of times they're just like, they're trying to tame a fuckboy. Don't try to tame a fuckboy. It's not going to happen.
No. And
we need merch to say that. Don't try to tame a fuckboy.
I'll get on it.
Says Margot and Sonia.
So before we had these losers, we had Phyllis Schlafly. Schlafly was a conservative activist. She successfully campaigned against the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment here in the United States because she thought women should stay home, and we were so lucky to get to do so. Her work in the conservative movement paved the way for so much of what we see in the GOP platform now. You know, including, like I said, overturning Roe v. Wade and like this constant like sexism and like homophobia and transphobia. Like she is instrumental in bringing all of this stuff out. She was a garbage person with a lot of shitty takes. We're going to get into a lot of them, just a few before we like dig in. She said that, and this is a quote, sexual harassment on the job is not a problem for virtuous women. And that sex education classes are like in-home sales parties for abortions. What a cunt.
Wow.
So we're going to start like we always do at the beginning. Let's talk about this cunt. Okay, Phyllis Stewart was born August 15th, 1924. Hey, it's almost her birthday.
Fuck you in hell.
Yeah, I know.
Wherever you are. I don't know where she is.
Yeah. I think we both know. She's the oldest of two daughters. Her mother, her name is Audley or Odile. I can't decide. Odile. Odile? Odile?
Odile or Odile? I don't know.
Anyway, she worked as a teacher plus many other jobs that we're going to get into here in a second. She also had 2 college degrees. Her dad was John Bruce Stewart. He was a machinist. He worked also as like an industrial equipment salesman. Her father actually lost his job during the Depression. And despite the fact that it would actually really benefit him and his family, he was a very staunch Republican and was fiercely opposed to the New Deal. He hated FDR so much that he refused to take government help. Schlafly said in an interview that the Depression was rough on everybody and we didn't get any federal handouts, welfare, food stamps, or any of those things because we would have considered it an embarrassment to be on the take from the government. And by we, I guess she just means her dad and herself, because her mom might have appreciated the help. She worked 6 days a week supporting the
Jesus.
family with a series of jobs. She worked at a department store, like as a salesperson. She worked as an elementary school teacher. She worked as a librarian at the St. Louis Art Museum. And in her spare time, because apparently she had spare time, she wrote a book on the history of St. Louis.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it is speculated that one of the reasons Schlafly was so focused on like women staying at home and raising children is because her mother wasn't able to do so.
Well, you know,
Because what?
if it's not one thing,
It's
your mother.
So, Phyllis, she's a smarty. She went to Maryville College of the Sacred Heart in St. Louis. It later is Maryville University. She transferred to Washington University. When she wasn't in class or studying, she worked nights at an ammunition factory where she test fired guns.
That sounds like fun.
That's a job that existed. It probably still exists. I don't know.
That makes you think of that guy that just won a gold medal, or he won a medal at the Olympics for shooting.
I can't believe Americans didn't win.
Right?
We're so good at shooting guns here. What the fuck, USA? Come on, get your shit together. All right, so she worked her ass off. Like, she graduated in 3 years.
Wow.
By the age of 19.
Wow.
Like, yeah. After that, she got a scholarship to study political science at Radcliffe. She earned a master's degree there in 9 months.
That's impressive.
Yeah, she's a creep, but she's
smart.
no dummy.
Yeah, she's smarty pants.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of more evil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't always like super conservative. Like, for a while, she was a little middle of the road. She was conservative, but not as conservative. Like, she tended to support like moderate Republicans. She wrote papers like supporting the United Nations, and she wanted a job in the federal government. But she didn't get a job in the federal government, but she did get a job at a conservative think tank called the American Enterprise Association. And that's when she started learning all this like conservative philosophy. And that's how we get where we're going here.
Gone went Phyllis.
Yes. So, in the 40s, she worked on a congressional campaign for a Republican. And then after that, she was working as like a librarian and a researcher. And that's when she met John Fred Schlafly Jr. She was 24 at the time. He was 39, a little older than her.
All right.
And he was very like politically engaged. He was politically minded, if you will, and conservative, from a rich family. And she likes that. So they got married in 1949. At the ceremony, Schlafly did not promise to obey him, FYI, but she did promise to cherish, but not obey. Interesting. Again, she loved to portray herself as this traditional wife, and if you watch any old clips of her, like, she is like, I'm a traditional wife, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I have kids and all this stuff. But the truth is, like, she was constantly traveling, writing, speaking, campaigning all the time. She was not a stay-at-home mom, and we're going to get into that in a little bit more. She got into politics in 1952. The Republicans the Republican group, whatever the group is, I forget, whatever, asked her husband to run for Congress. And he was like, no, thanks. And she's like, I'll do it. Me, pick me, I'll run. So she volunteers to run. She won the Republican primary, but she lost the general election. But she got a taste for it. And she started speaking engagements all over the country. She made all kinds of conservative connections. And then she was using those connections for a while to fight communism. That was she thought that would be her in.
The 50s,
right?
yeah.
Yes. So in like 1958, her and her husband like started this foundation that was like named after some Roman Catholic leader to like fight communism. And it was all about educating Catholics about communism. And again, like this was about, she was just using this as her stepping stone into politics. This was her shiny new issue. She hosted like a 15-minute radio show on like a national network called America Wake Up. And it played on it played in 25 stations in Illinois. It wasn't nationwide. I apologize. I misspoke. And then in 1964, she self-published a book called A Choice, Not an Echo. And I was like, what the fuck is that? I don't even know what that means. But I looked it up and was reading what the book is about. And I was like, ew, this is like a QAnon thread come to like before that was a thing. Like it's all about like kingmakers or picking our leaders and our votes don't count. And I was like, okay, internet troll, like before internet.
Does she say to go touch grass?
Yeah, right. She's such a trendsetter because she claimed her book was like a big success. No, what happened is the Barry Goldwater supporters like bought millions of copies of her book and like handed it out to people, which by the way is a thing that still happens.
Yes, it does.
These conservative groups bought up copies of, I don't know, Donald Trump Jr.'s book or Sarah Palin's book.
And then it's number one on the list. Yes.
Yes. And then they can like brag, I have a bestseller. It's like,
New York Times
no one read
bestseller.
that book. Yep. Nobody read that book. She did the same thing. But well, I should say the group she was associated with did the same thing. But the book did help put her like in the conservative movement. Like she was somebody then that could speak about the conservative movement, and then more people wanted to talk to her, et cetera, et cetera. So in 1964, she is an active supporter of Goldwater's presidential campaign, Barry Goldwater. And she becomes very closely identified with his campaign, and he loses bigly. And then she's like, I'm not giving up. She then ran for like another seat, a presidency of the National Federation of Republican Women. She didn't win that. She then ran again for Congress in 1970 and lost again.
Wow.
And I just want to say, isn't it interesting that people will claim that their politics are so popular, but when there's a vote by American citizens, she lost. She lost every time.
They also say it's what God wants, which is like,
yes.
Nah.
Nah. Even God's like, nah.
I'm busy. I got shit to do.
So she's like, what I believe is super popular and everybody cares, but then when it comes to voting, people are like they don't vote for her. Weird how that happens. She wrote an op-ed saying that we need more women to hold public office, which, you know, is pretty fucking feminist, Schlafly. But, you know, what she really means is she should be able to hold public office because other women, they can kick rocks. She was very frustrated about her attempts to get into politics and how that didn't work out for her. And then in 1971, a friend asked her to debate a feminist on the Equal Rights Amendment. So she read up on the issue and she decided the ERA was dangerous and it needed to be stopped. She has discovered her shiny new political issue that she is going to use to further her career. So, Tanya Melchick wrote this book in 1996 called The Republican War Against Women, an Insider's Report from Behind the Lines. And she said that Schlafly, and this is a quote, made the religious right a political player once she unearthed the political gold of misogyny. Like, this is exactly what she did. She didn't invent it, by the way, obviously, but she knew how to tap into it. And now that well never runs dry. They tap into it all the time. It's happening right now. Like
50 years later. Thanks a lot, Phyllis.
Yes. Yeah, you suck, Phyllis, you cunt. Anyway, so people who don't know, but I'm sure you do, the Equal Rights Amendment was first introduced in Congress in 1923. The purpose of the ERA is to guarantee equal rights to all American citizens, regardless of sex. What? That's earth-shattering stuff.
The hell you say?
You're saying ladies are people? What? So it had wide support, by the way, on the political spectrum. Like it wasn't just
Still
this is
does.
what. Yeah, and so the public wanted it. The House and the Senate passed it. It had the support of Nixon. It had the support of Carter after that. And then Schlafly decided to make it her thing. And that shit just fucking ground to a halt. She made a huge fucking impact in this. It's still not passed, y'all.
No.
It's still.
Can I say?
Yes, do it.
Okay, so my mom, Rose Donahue, she was president of League of Women Voters in Nassau County, Long Island in the 1970s. Big deal because my mother was Republican, by the way. She was also Catholic. She had 4 kids. And it was a big deal to be in the League of Women Voters. Like they would put her up there because she would say, like, you get like a lot of feminists and everybody looks a certain way. My mother would be up there in a little suit and her little kids sitting in the chairs and be like, oh, what's going on here with this? My mother really fought hard with a lot of other women for the ERA, and this dick cheese really just soiled the waters to the point that we still don't have it. I think it was 80 or 81 when last time it didn't pass.
I want to say maybe 82.
Maybe it's 82. My mother cried so fucking hard, and my dad was trying to comfort her. And then I remember clearly my dad saying, look, Reagan's in office now. He'll help you. He'll make it happen, Rose. He respects women. I know. And so when they had that show a few years ago called Ms. America, and it was with Kate
Which I
Blanchett,
haven't seen.
I can't watch it.
I can't watch it either
I
because she
cannot
she
watch
sucks
it
so hard.
because she sucks so fucking hard. Like her name was like verboten around my mother. You couldn't bring it up.
Yeah.
Because she made up so many bullshit reasons why people didn't pass it, and it just And I think my mother gave up. My mother fought really hard. She fought really hard, and then it got super challenging, and then she kind of just was like, all right, fine. It's
hard. It's
hard.
Disheartening.
It's very hard to put yourself out there and do it over and over again. And my mom had her own mental health issues, and she just was like, so anyway, that's why I won't talk about this woman, but you can.
Yeah, no. And it's still hard. If you're a woman who's online, you see this shit all the time. And and you're constantly just like, fuck that guy, fuck that guy, fuck that guy, fuck that woman, whatever. But it's disheartening to see it over and over.
Because we were raised with this, by the way.
Yeah.
So when we were kids, it was supposed to, feminism was supposed to rise up, and we were all going to be equal, and we were all going to have a chance, and blah, blah, blah. And it just never fucking happened, really. And yeah, we always thought our generation was better than the one before us, and maybe it was when it came to that, but not really.
Right.
Anyway,
so
continue.
So this bitch decided to make it her. This bitch decided to make it her thing and her bridge into politics. So she founded Stop the ERA, which was a volunteer organization. Eventually turned into something called the Eagle Forum, but who cares? Boring. So STOP was an acronym for Stop Taking Our Privileges. And she was arguing that we already have laws that are in the books to protect women, and that the ERA was going to take away protections for women. So things like alimony or exempting women from combat. She even went further than that and started saying the ERA was going to force women into the workforce against their will. You have to work, and your kids will have to go to daycare or whatever. And it's no, the ERA wasn't going to do that, but capitalism did make women have to go into the workforce.
Yes, good point.
Workforce. It had nothing to do with the ERA. And because of this bitch, we don't have things like subsidized childcare, but capitalism is forcing women into the workforce. So now you're paying out of pocket for childcare. This shit would have been paid for. So she claimed that all these protections for women were going to be taken away from us if the ERA happened. She argued successfully, mind you, that the equality between men and women was undesirable and that American women were, and I'm quote, the luckiest class of people on earth.
Yeah.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky that we're so discriminated against, that we don't have to work, that we can just stay home. But of course she felt that way. She's married to a rich man.
Right. You're white and you're rich.
Yes.
Yeah. What about everybody else?
Yes. She didn't care
She
about
didn't give a
everyone
fuck.
else.
Did not
No.
give a fuck. And nobody questioned her about that, by the way. They didn't fight
No.
back because there were a lot of men that were newscasters that were just like, even Phil Donahue was a little wimp about it. I mean, just, ugh. I'm sorry.
So, no, you're fine. One of her like go-to opening lines when she would go on her little speaking tours, I'm such a bitch too. Her speaking tours, she would say, "I want to thank my husband Fred for letting me come here."
Aw, thank you, Fred.
Fred, you're the best.
I hope he was fucking around on her.
I hope he was too. So he probably was. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So
Go on tour, honey. I'm cool.
yeah. Bye-bye. In interviews later, she would say, "I like to say that because I know it irritates women libbers more than anything else."
That's like
And it
saying
was
woke nowadays, by the way.
Yes,
Or SJWs.
100%. So before there was woke, we had women libbers, we had feminazis from Rush Limbaugh. We already did an episode on that fucking creep. It was irritating, but not for the reason she thinks. Like, it demonstrates her belief that women should stay home and that women are not equal, but it was all performative.
Right. She didn't really mean it.
No, she's cosplaying as a stay-at-home mom.
She didn't lose any power. She only gained
No.
power.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was ambitious and she was working and she had nannies and housekeepers
Of course she did.
at home. Yes. She wasn't, and she would be like, "I'm doing it all. I work on my books after the children go to bed and blah, blah, blah."
Jan.
Bitch,
Sure,
you
Jan.
had nannies and housekeepers. But she never admitted to that stuff because she was pretending that she was doing it all. Like, she would later refer to her career, by the way,
It was a career.
as a hobby. Again, so she married a rich man. She hired help. She didn't have to work. And she didn't want other women to work. Like, what a fucking privilege. So she would rail against like childcare subsidies because she didn't need them.
I love
And
how
she
somebody
would
doesn't
rail-
need something so they don't think anybody else does.
Yes. And she would rail against women having equal rights because she felt like she didn't need them. So neither do you. She sucks so much.
And she was a good talker. And she looked proper. And she
Yes. And she, yes.
that was one of her superpowers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was a really good debater in that she would say her garbage takes, her shitty takes. And people like Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan, they really would take the bait. And they would, like, I think Betty Friedan called her Aunt Tom and, like, said, like, "I want to burn you at the stake," and like all, and then it was like, "You're a bunch of angry feminists."
Right.
Like, look how crazy they are. Like, look how miserable they are.
They're so mad.
They're so mad because no men will ever love them because they're ugly feminists and all this, and like, but she was really good at like getting them angry.
Right.
And it sucks.
She was a good communicator. I have to give it
She
to
was.
Rush Limbaugh as well. Like, there's
Yes.
certain people, they're good communicators. I mean, I fucking hate what they say and I hate them with a passion.
Yes.
But if you have to kind of like look at a person objectively and say, yeah, I get why people listen to her, but she fucking sucks.
Yes, she fucking sucks. She's very smart,
Yeah.
but she's
And also-
dumb at the same time.
Well, it was also like the first generation of women on television, especially debating other women. Like, it wasn't done before. I mean, she was, you don't want to be one of the first of anything. It's tough.
Yeah.
But she had some practice, like 20 years of trying to get into Congress and try to get elected and try to get some
Yes.
shit going. And then she found her thing, which paid her and gave her fame, which I'm sure blew up her head.
Yes.
But she still called it a hobby, which is just so fucking deplorable.
She would have had an easier time in her political ambitions if the ERA and feminism had made more of an impact. But like instead she tried to push her way into politics by stepping on those things. It's really infuriating. So before she came along and before Stop the ERA came along, the Republican Party was relatively liberal on women's issues. Not liberal, but like relatively liberal. Like the party platform supported the ERA. Republican First Lady Betty Ford supported reproductive rights. You know, it was not that weird. Like they weren't as hardcore
As weird as they are now.
Yes. So, and then Stop the ERA like really grew more powerful after the Supreme Court legalized abortion in 1973. And that's when like social conservatives really started becoming louder and they latched on to Stop the ERA. And there's a few other things to note on this stuff. So women weren't allowed to open bank accounts until the 60s. Women weren't allowed to get credit cards without their husband's signature until 1974. It wasn't until 1971 that unmarried couples were allowed to possess birth control. Isn't that bananas?
Wow.
I didn't know that one. So we'd made these like small bits of progress that it's new. It was new to us. But the culture war was against the ERA and feminism was starting to build because of these things. And that's how it's all this pressure, and it actually convinced Nixon to veto a bipartisan universal health care or child care bill. So thanks, bitch. So Schlafly's strategy was she organized grassroots or groups all over the country in multiple states, and they put pressures on state legislatures to not ratify the ERA because it had already passed House and Congress, but to get it in the Constitution it has to be ratified by 38 states or something. So they would show Stop ERA members would show up at state houses. They met with leaders there. Sometimes they would show up with freshly baked pies and bread. See, you could be having this all the time if women didn't have to work, or if women, if you made it harder for women to work, and again, she was incredibly organized.
Yeah.
And a really good debater. And she would, claim that the ERA was a threat to traditional families. She claimed that she's pro-family and she's pro-women, which is why she's anti-ERA.
Right.
Ugh. She claimed that the ERA targeted men as an enemy and that it was painting this negative view of women and that it was teaching women that the cards are stacked against them.
Where have you heard this?
Yes, and that feminists just need to be more positive and solve your own problems.
You negative Nellies.
Yeah, have you tried smiling more? She then, she would say that the ERA was denigrating stay-at-home mothers, was leading, and a lot of these women who were oh, I don't know how I feel about the ERA, she would convince them that if this passes, it's because it would make them feel lesser, which is the opposite of what it was supposed to do. And it makes me so frustrated. Again, that's why I didn't watch Mrs. America, one with Kate Blanchett, because I was I can't spend 9 episodes with this garbage woman.
Yeah.
I can't. And by the way, I'm sure Kate Blanchett is so good in it.
She's
and
good in everything. Yeah.
Yes, and it has Sarah Paulson in it, and all these amazing people, Rose Byrne. Like, I'm sure it's really good. I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. So I'm sorry. I did read a million things and watched a million videos, but I couldn't bring myself to watch that. Let's see. Where did I leave off? Oh, on top of all of that, she also used homophobia
Wee!
to build up more support against the ERA. She claimed that once the ERA passed, it was like kind of this gateway where like gay men and women would be given the same dignity as husbands and wives. So it was like, this is using this kind of fear mongering.
Yeah, like they did with gay marriage.
Yeah, exactly. So she would say, like, I don't think perverts, literally on TV saying, I don't think perverts should have the same rights.
Yep.
It's, gay people can definitely not have the same rights, and they definitely shouldn't be allowed to adopt. Like, that was her part of her platform, which then brings in all these homophobes to support her thing. She would then go on talk shows and say that feminists are just resentful because no one wants to marry them. We get this now.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing with JD Vance and his whole thing about childless cat ladies and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, bitch, please.
Yeah.
Don't threaten me with a good time. So in 1975, she went back to law school and got her law degree in 1978. And she, it comes out that she went back to law school and got her degree, and people are like, what a hypocrite, and that's when she started she was like, it's a hobby. It's just a hobby.
Going to law school is not a hobby.
Yeah, bitch.
Jesus.
Knitting's a hobby, not law school.
Yeah, exactly. Scrapbooking.
Yeah, that's a hobby. Like, what are you talking about? And so she would say, like, it's just a hobby, and I'm not a feminist, and women should stay home. But then she would also say things like, my husband, Fred, says a woman's place is in the House, the U.S. House of Representatives. And I'm like, well, which is it, bitch?
Yeah, I know. Yes. That's my brain explodes.
I was like, I wrote in my notes, she's so smart. Does she know what irony is? Like, what a bitch. She just doesn't care.
Right.
She doesn't care about other women.
No,
it's what she's
fine. She's good.
Yes. So, and she couldn't have done all the things she did without feminism.
Exactly.
And it would have been easier for her to do these things if the ERA passed, but she doesn't see it that way. So the ERA was not ratified. It never got the 3/4 of the states that it needed to get. And a lot of the things that I read, and many political leaders and feminist activists believe the ERA would have passed if she never had gotten involved.
Oh,
like, she
absolutely
single-handedly.
Yep.
Yes. So eventually the Stop ERA organization became Eagle Forum, and it was like it was an active conservative organization. She was the chairwoman and CEO of it until she died in 2016.
But it was just a hobby. How could she be CEO?
But it was just, exactly. It's just a hobby. And the truth is she was shitty until the very end. So like nothing changed for her. Like, she dismissed that women needed protection from sexual harassment and assault. She spoke at the Senate Labor Committee in the 80s, and she said, men hardly ever ask sexual favors of women from whom the certain answer is no. Virtuous women are seldom accosted by unwelcome sexual propositions or obscene talk or profane language.
Not true. Not true, bitch.
Definitely not true.
Not true. Fuck you.
Translation, you're asking for it.
Right.
That's
you're
what
weak.
she's saying.
Or you're you're slutty, or you're weak, or you're whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. You're doing
Yes.
something wrong if that's happening to you. It's not them doing
Yes.
something wrong, by the way.
No. It's on you.
It's all on you.
Yeah. In 1989, she published a book, Who Will Rock the Cradle? And it was all about how we shouldn't have subsidized childcare in this country and that y'all should be staying home with your kids.
Which, if you want to do and you can afford it, great.
Yes. Look, I have a kid. I would have loved to have stayed home those first couple of years with Calvin. I would have loved it. Going back to work with a 3-month-old baby, leaving my 3-month-old baby with someone was one of the hardest things I've done. And I had cancer, bitch. Like, I had cancer. Like, handing my kid over to someone was so hard. Fucking bitch. Ugh. Anyway, in 1992, her son was outed as gay, and she didn't change her stance. And she was like, nobody's stopping them from shacking up. The problem is they're trying to make us respect them, and that's an interference with what we believe. And when Reagan attempted to bring AIDS education into schools in the 80s, because that was it was like a plague. Like, she had very strong things to say about that too, because she's a garbage person. She was a garbage person. In 2006, she did an interview where she said any improvements in women's lives was not due to feminism, but it was just because of labor-saving devices like clothes dryers and paper diapers.
Oh, for God's sakes, woman. She's asshole. She knows she's lying. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
She's not stupid like MTG or Lauren Bobert.
Yeah.
Like they're dumb.
Yes, they know.
They're dumb. She knows.
Yeah. So
She's
she
like
also
Trump. She doesn't give a
denied.
fuck.
Yeah. She also denied the existence of marital rape. She said that by getting married, you're consenting. She's such a fucking asshole. The solution to unwanted pregnancies is forcing people into marriage. Yeah, I'm sure men will love that one too, by the way. In 2011, the Violence Against Women Act was passed, and she was just like, when marriages are broken by false allegations of domestic violence, U.S. taxpayers have to pay an estimated $20 billion a year to support the resulting single parent welfare dependent families.
Not true.
Like,
no, lying sack of shit. Sorry.
She's such a sack. No, she is a sack of shit. She also claimed that there's a war on men, and that feminists are very open about it. And they don't conceal it. They brag about it. There's no war on men.
No.
She claimed that college feminists make false rape accusations to persecute men. She said it's really dangerous for a guy to go to college these days. He's better off if he doesn't talk to any women when he gets there.
And then you're wondering why he doesn't have a girlfriend.
Right? Ugh. In March, she really wanted to go out with a bang, y'all. In March 2016, she endorses Donald J. Trump for president. She thinks he has the courage and the energy to do what needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. She actually wrote a whole book about it called The Conservative Case for Trump. Fuck you, but we can all take pleasure in knowing she died in September 2016, so she never got to see it. Ha ha. She died she was 92.
Yeah, evil will preserve you.
Why? It's not fair.
I don't know. It's really fucking unfair.
So here's one of the reasons, again, like I said at the top, I've been thinking a lot about women who hate women, and the women that have a lot of internal misogyny too. And I admit that I've struggled with this in my past. We've talked about this before about the confessions of a former pick-me.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely can look back at things in my life and be like, ugh, Sonia, gross.
Yeah.
But you learn as you get older. But if the ERA had passed, feminists may not have had to fight so hard against pregnancy discrimination, for equal pay bills, for laws that target our health providers. There is there's been a recent effort to kind of revive the ERA, but it's not going to get any traction in a Republican Congress.
Right.
So in 2023, two senators, sorry, Lisa Murkowski
Murkowski?
and yes, and Susan Collins
Maine.
put forth of Maine put forth the Equal Rights Amendment, and it failed along party lines. Republicans didn't vote for it. Both of them are GOP senators, by the way, and they constantly like vote with the shittiest GOP men. And they make excuses for these men. They take bullets for these men like all the time. And when they're like, hey, vote for this Equal Rights Amendment, guess what? They don't think you're equal.
No,
they're
they
not
don't.
going to pick you.
They laugh.
They're never gonna.
They laugh behind your back.
Yes.
Behind your back, they fucking giggle.
I never thought the leopards would eat my face. So, and then Republicans will be like, we don't need this amendment. That's why we're not voting for it. That's not why. Because they don't think women are equal.
Right.
That's why.
I had some guy tell me about hate crimes. Just like, we already have rules. What do we need? And just rolling his eyes. I'm like, yeah, you're a white man. You're a tall, handsome white man from a rich family. Like, life must be pretty fucking sweet.
Yes. Just the fact that it hadn't passed, the fact that it still had this was last year and people are still like, no. It's embarrassing and fuck this bitch.
So I wonder, with Biden having like another 170 days left in his presidency.
I think it's only like, oh yeah. You're right.
I mean, we have the elections like in under 100 days, and then he's got like 3 months after that.
Yeah.
Maybe he can make something happen.
Maybe,
I mean, he has
but
this power.
The Republicans won't vote for it.
No, I mean, like he can just.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if these a lot of Republicans right now are really upset because Trump and his dumb VP pick have said a lot of shit that are alienating millions of female voters. If the Republicans would like to make a little headway with women, maybe they could vote for the ERA. But I'm not telling the Republicans how to win.
No.
So, and they're not listening anyway. And by the way,
they hate listening to us and then leave 1-star reviews.
But they're not good. It doesn't matter. Even if they passed it, like women are like, fuck these guys. Like, except for pick me women. They're like, this time will be different. I can change them.
Oh, God.
So that's our creep, Phyllis Schlafly.
Fuck this woman. Ugh.
I know. I know she makes you super, super angry. She makes me super angry. I'm sure all of our listeners are super angry. We had to talk about her someday.
She's one of those people that said that the ERA was going to bring in gender-free bathrooms. And that made people lose their shit. So to speak.
Yeah, they're still losing their shit.
Still a problem. Bathrooms. Like that's like how she made it that basic. Like, yeah. You're gonna have men in the stall next to you taking his shit. Like that's what's gonna happen. Like I can't. She makes me so mad.
It's just not I don't care what people are doing in the bathroom.
That's what my mother would say. Like she's smart and she knows she's lying and she doesn't fucking care.
Yeah. I read this quote recently. I wonder if I can find it because it was really, really smart. Give me 1 second while I look it up. But I was thinking about, like, I don't know why people care what the fuck is going on in bathrooms. I'm like, why do you care?
It's a vulnerable place, but it's also something like we all have to use it. Like,
yeah, I'm just like, who cares?
Why do you care? I mean, it's.
Oh, here it is. There's this writer named Eric Hoffer, and he wrote a book in 1951 called The True Believer. And it's about people who join mass movements. He wrote this in the 50s, y'all.
Wow.
And he said, a man is likely to mind his own business when it's worth minding. When it is not, he takes his mind off his own meaningless affairs by minding other people's business. This minding of other people's business expresses itself in gossip, snooping, and meddling, and also has feverish interest in communal, national, and racial affairs. what he's saying is you're minding others people's business because you don't have any fucking business.
Right.
Like you have nothing going on in your life, and that's why you're making all this shit your business. And I'm like, what a burn. You burn.
From 1951, you burnt.
Yes. Like he says, like passionate hatred can give meaning and purpose to an empty life.
We
These
see that
people-
on Twitter every day.
Yes. These people are haunted by the purposelessness of their lives and try to find a new content, not only by dedicating themselves to a holy cause, but by nursing a fanatical grievance.
So that makes me think of, and she's on our list, Joanna K. Rowling. And
Yes.
her whole bullshit against a boxer. What
The
fuck? So this boxer is from Algeria, which is a Muslim nation.
Mm-hmm.
She is a woman. She was what is the term? Labeled at birth, or something like that, like female labeled at birth, or something like that. But
Yeah,
something,
she was born a woman.
well, yeah, but I mean, if you have, there's intersex people. That's what blows away
Yeah.
a lot of, you can.
Oh, there's a whole documentary, by the way, on Amazon Prime that you could stream for free.
Oh.
and it's about intersex people. I watched it earlier this year. It was really good. It's super interesting because I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a
Anything.
spectrum, okay, and
Yeah.
and she in her community, it's very homophobic, and also just like the gender politics. Like she couldn't take medicine for what she has. I mean, she has some more testosterone in her than the average woman, and she can't take anything to change that because of where she's from. But also, like, she's fine. I mean, but she's a boxer. And then this chick in Italy was like, "Well, she tried to hit me and it was hard." I'm like, "You're boxing. Someone's going to hit you. Like, what do you think is going to happen in that ring?"
Yeah.
And everything was okay with the Olympics. I mean, and then Rowling is like writing speeches to the Olympic Committee. This is after last week when everybody was all pissed off about the opening.
I hope
What is fucking wrong with her?
that woman sues J.K. Rowling.
I
and
think
gets
she
a
should.
shit I think she should too, for defamation. Because
Yeah.
what she did was she opened her up. J.K. Rowling used her public platform, a very popular one with
Right.
shitty people, by the way, and said that she's a man and that she's a trans person, that she's a man, and that she signed up to compete in a woman's sport so that she could like beat up a woman and it would be okay. All these awful things she said that are not true.
And this person lost
Provably.
fights to other women.
Yeah.
There's a chick from Ireland
Provably
who
false.
kicked her ass. Yeah, this is all false.
She just like, it goes to show you that it's not even about trans people
It's
anymore.
not.
Like it's about like, you need to conform to a certain kind of femininity. You know what I'm saying. But like, you have to conform to being a certain kind of woman. And if you are not, then you are different, or you're something
You're an
else.
enemy.
Yes.
That's what she
That's all it
thinks.
means. And it's ridiculous. You can be a strong woman
Yes, you
and
can.
not. I just don't understand.
I know women who do
Watch Pumping
CrossFit.
Iron too.
Yes. I have friends that CrossFit that can like lift things like over their heads, like hundreds of pounds. Like there's like, you can be very strong and you could be very weak and be a man. I mean, it doesn't, but that's somebody who has literally, people abuse that word, but literally has billions of dollars to her name and just uses her time to attack people with her phone or with her
Yeah.
laptop.
Yeah, I'm like
That don't
do you
have any
no-
of the protections she has. Like, doesn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
this woman has to go back to Algeria, and how is she going to be treated at her country?
It's
because of
illegal
this?
in her country. She's in
Right.
danger.
You in danger, girl.
You're in danger, girl. J.K. Rowling has no business to mind. Bitch, you could have enjoyed the best life with your billions of dollars that you got from Harry Potter. And instead, you spend your time and your energy like just being garbage.
You're being shitty, and you always have opportunities in your life to not be shitty. And we've all I make arguments like your 20s are probably the hardest time in your life for a lot of people. You're just emotionally, you're not mature. You're learning things. You're trying to overcome things you grew up with. You're trying to figure out what was right that you were raised and what wasn't and what works for you and stuff like that. And for her to be in her 50s and then have this very narrow, myopic idea of what it means to be a woman, but also deciding that a trans person is a threat when they're not. Like by any, look for any statistics. First of all, there's just not a big enough population to be that scared of anyway. But, and I don't know if you know any trans people, I do. And it's a terrifying existence. Yeah, we do actually. Yeah. It can be a very terrifying existence. I mean, people, I'm just like gobsmacked at just like.
It makes me angry.
And she bases it on going back to the subject. She's protecting women. If we have a trans woman in this space with cis women who were assigned to this at birth, then they're easily going to be beat up and raped by these trans, which is not going to happen. It just doesn't.
Could you imagine, like, what the fuck? Like, she thinks that this woman, she's a woman. Not a trans.
I mean, I'm not going to look at her privates, but
no.
But if she did the blood work and the Olympic Committee said she is,
yes,
she is.
J.K. Rowling's theory is that men are basically, quote unquote, turning into women so that they can like abuse women. And I'm like, but guess what? They don't have to turn into women to abuse women. Men abuse women all the time and they get away with it. You could just become a cop.
Openly hate.
Become a cop.
Men openly can hate women. Openly can say that they're lesser than other women. You know, just you. I think you're on mute.
I was gonna say you could run for president if you want to abuse women. It's easier. What are you talking about? Who are these people?
Who are these people? The biggest insult men can give to other men is to call them a woman. Is to call them a bitch.
You throw like a girl.
You throw like a girl. You act like a teenage girl. That's like their big insult. So no, they don't want to put on makeup and wear dresses.
I mean, they might want to, but that's not why.
All the guys I know that do wear makeup or wear dresses, they don't hit women. They like women.
Yes.
Genuinely.
It makes my blood boil.
Okay. Let's cleanse.
Yes.
Cleanse ourselves. And I think this is a really good, speaking of the Olympics, I want to talk about someone who is surprising people with, it's a dude. I'm pretty sure he's a dude. He identifies as male. Sonia, do you know who William Jonathan Drayton Jr. is?
I might know him by another name.
His name is Flavor Flav.
Yeah, boy.
I fucking love Flavor Flav. I love Chuck D. I love Public Enemy. This is like my fucking jam from the 80s. Flavor Flav. What an interesting person. So let me tell you something that you don't know about Flavor Flav. He's from Roosevelt, New York, Long Island, which is where Howard Stern is from. He was born March 16th, 1959. He's been with Public Enemies off and on since 1985. He's had 6 Grammy nominations. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Most people know him from the last 20 years with The Surreal Life, Strange Love, and then Flavor of Love. I loved Flavor of Love, I have to tell you. New York was my favorite.
I never watched that one, but I saw clips of it because I used to watch The Soup or Talk Soup, whatever it was called at the time, and I would see clips.
He was with Brigitte Nielsen for a while. They had a thing going. They were perfect together. I kind of miss them. They were my favorite. What people don't know about him, he and Snoop, people like 20, 25 years ago that terrified white people are like the most loved people right now at the Olympics. And they should be. They're great at it. But it's
one of my favorite things watching the Olympics this year is
on Peacock.
Is the Snoop Dogg is, I assume, there because he's going to be a new judge on The Voice, which is also on that network. So I think that there's like a promotion thing going on. That's fine. I'm fine with it because constantly cut back to Snoop Dogg for reactions to things, and I'm like, I allow it. And he's making friends with all the families of all the different Olympians.
I mean,
and he's being so kind and so curious and asking questions. And I was like, that's cool.
did you
I
see
think
the
it's
one
cool.
with Snoop at the Louvre? And he had a private escort take him around the Louvre. And
I
he's
didn't
looking at the
see it.
Mona Lisa. He's like, she's smiling at me. Come over here. She's smiling at me over here. Then he goes to the other side. She's smiling at me over here. They're just a goddamn delight. And Flavor Flav,
Yes.
he's been following Taylor Swift on tour the last year and a half.
That's hilarious.
Trading bracelets
Amazing.
with people. Now, a lot of people don't know this, and this is where I started with, he taught himself how to play piano at the age of 5.
Ooh, I didn't know
He
this.
is a brilliant musician, and at one point he was proficient in 15 instruments. He
Wow.
doesn't play any of them on the Public Enemy records.
No, he's a hype man.
He's the hype man, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is wild because also on the Olympics, they showed him, he was on a piano and he was in the lobby and he goes, oh, do you mind if I play this? And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. And he goes over and he plays beautifully. And they're all like, because like,
Oh, I had no idea.
you got to go to Peacock, man. It's all over there. But he put up money because the U.S. water polo team, he found out that they were working 3 or 4 jobs apiece let me give you a little more background. Sorry.
Yeah.
In the 80s into the 90s, Public Enemy, they were one of the first big time rap groups. I mean, it was before hip hop. This is like rap. And they were very political. And they were very, which is, and they're just amazing. And music business, it's a hard career. It's a tough life to keep going and to stay relevant. He's had his share of breaking the law.
Yeah.
He's
he definitely has.
he was addicted. He said this, by the way, I'm not saying anything out of turn. He had a really big problem with crack cocaine, with drugs. He went to rehab a few times. He's been arrested for a few times for doing not great things, including with partners in his life. But about 20 plus years ago, he started getting his shit together. He went to rehab. He first moved back in with his mother. He lost his money from Public Enemy. He moved back with his mother, and then he was living with Beverly Johnson for a while, the model.
Oh.
Yeah. And her kids. And then they broke up. And Chuck D, who was doing radio at the time and was living in LA, said, why don't you come out to LA? You need to get out of New York for a while. Why don't you, start something over? So he moves to LA. And as soon as he's in LA and he's meeting people, he meets somebody from VH1. They're like, we have this show called Surreal Life. Would you like to be on it? And he was like, I don't know. I don't want to be all these has-been celebrities. But then Chuck D said, like, dude, you need the money. Do it. And he became a star, like he became a favorite. And then he got all these shows. And then he's just been working nonstop since then. And his attitude has been, and he's staying sober. And his attitude is, I'm going to do well. I got this second chance with my life. So he found out that the women's water polo team, by the way, they were living on like 2 or 3 jobs apiece. And so he said, I'll sponsor you so that you can just work on this and go to the Olympics. And then recently, we just found out this past week, there's a woman who's a discus thrower. And she said, LOL, here I am in Paris. And her name is Veronica Fraley, and she's with Team USA. And she was saying, here I am, I'm here at the Olympics, and I can't believe this, but I can't even pay my rent. I'm terrified of paying my rent tomorrow. And so he responded and said, dude, DM me. I'll take care of this for you.
Yeah. By the way, she didn't tweet at him.
No, she
Like,
just
I think
tweeted.
she just tweeted it out, and he
And she only had like
saw
a
it.
couple of thousand followers. Like, it's not
Yeah.
like but he was checking, the hashtag. And then it was Venus. Is it Venus or Serena Williams, who's married to the Reddit guy? Serena?
I think it's
Serena.
Serena.
Her husband was like, yo, let me help too. And so they basically paid her rent till the end of the year. And
It's amazing.
And that's just like what he's doing is he's bringing joy to people. He's known for wearing a clock. And and the symbolism of the clock for him is that you can never escape time. Time always exists, even when you're gone. And so what do you do with your time when you have it? And that's his whole reason for wearing the clock. And I think that's amazing. And I just, and him.
And it's so fun.
Yes.
Like that he sponsored that team. And then not only did he sponsor them, like you said, he's at the Olympics and he's cheering them on.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
posing for all the pictures, giving them all this press.
Yes. And all these people are coming up to him. They're getting autographs and pictures. And he's meeting with everyone. Like people are gone. The auditorium's like emptying and he's still like meeting with people. He's been like apparently nothing but like super kind to everybody there. And that's what I love, because Americans can have a reputation of being ugly, what they call ugly Americans. We go to other countries and we embarrass ourselves,
act
and be
entitled and shitty.
Yes, and like he is not doing that, and Snoop Dogg is not doing that either. They're being kind and curious and like supportive, and I love seeing the stuff on because I've been watching the Olympics too, and it's really also just a trip. If you told me in the 90s that I would be watching the Olympics and Snoop Dogg and Flava Flav would be there and everyone would love that, I would have never guessed that.
They were considered terrifying because they were rappers, they were black,
Yes.
they were political.
Yes,
And look at them now.
I know.
The culture has
trip.
shifted. But that's what you can do. Also, what you can do when you're famous. Also, what you can do when you have a spotlight is you can take it and help other people with it. And there you are being congratulated for being a great person and also helping somebody and then making
Yes.
their life a little bit easier so they don't have to he didn't want to worry about it because I'm going to do this right now so you don't have to think about it. Like,
Yeah.
who does that?
Flava
Flav. I used to love when he was Bridget Nielsen called her Bridget. And she called him Floofy Floof.
That's cute.
It was so cute. Well, that's our
a good
show
pick.
today, everybody. Thank you. That's our show today, everyone. We'll be back next week with a new episode. But as you know, we're always looking for suggestions for creeps and non-creeps. So all those places I mentioned at the top of the show, you can reach out to us. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one, but you could just be clever and do something else. Our email, once again, is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you like the sound of our voices, and by golly, why wouldn't you? We co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. Right now, our episode is about Scarface.
Scarface.
We
Say
got a
hello
review on
to my
YouTube.
little friend.
Did you see the review on YouTube?
What did they say?
Somebody on YouTube's like, because we write out the title, we put out Scarface and the people that are the stars of the movie. So you know which Scarface we're talking about. And some
Yes.
guy got really mad because he thought we really interviewed Al Pacino and Michelle Pfeiffer.
That's a you problem.
That's a you problem, sir.
Yes. But
What are-
up next,
Up next, we're covering Breaking Away. Because of the Olympics, it's a cycling
one of
sport.
Marco's faves.
This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's probably a top 10er. It's my favorite sports movie, which is really saying something because I
have
many
never
sports
seen it,
movies.
so-
Sonia's never seen it.
I've never seen it.
So that's what's coming up on Dorking Out. Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Friendster, MySpace, all the places. Where can people find you, my friend?
My email is at excite.com. That's a poll. You can find me at brooklynfitchick.com. I'm at brooklynfitchick for Twitter and Instagram and Threads. And then I'm at Brooklyn Margot for TikTok and for Twitter. Right? I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of you, thank you so much for listening. I need to cool off once again. I have to turn my AC back on because I'm dying of the heat here. Send your prayers to my way.
Yes. Send your cool thoughts to Margot, please.
In the meantime, everybody, be safe, be cool, be kind. Don't be a creep.
You creep. Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.